With Redfall arriving at IGN just a couple of days ahead of its official release date, we haven't had enough time to complete a final review yet. Certainly not without becoming a nocturnal monster myself and staying awake all weekend. However, after several sessions, solo, co-op with a friend, and also in a group of 3, I must admit I'm thoroughly underwhelmed by Redfall's vanilla missions and lifeless world, and very disappointed at its lengthy list of display issues and bugs. Redfall is a distinct departure from the likes of Deathloop and Dishonored. Certainly some of that arcane DNA has sidestepped its way into the finished product, chiefly in the magical abilities of the 4 available powered-up protagonists. But Redfall's open-world approach to a modern-day Massachusetts is otherwise a little more mundane in comparison. Perhaps best described as Far Cry with a supernatural slant, Redfall's premise seems simple. Take back the town from the slobbering vampires and their human flunkies that have occupied it.
These blokes must be the cultists on the radio.
Unfortunately, so far the experience seems surprisingly boring and regularly broken. With 4 heroes to choose from, each with 3 special abilities, plus co-op support for up to 4 players, there are objectively many ways you and a team of friends can approach combat in Redfall. At its best, you'll have players strategically teleporting around, conjuring up a ghostly sniper rifle,
Kiss your ass goodbye.
or summoning a friendly vampire ex-boyfriend to fight alongside you, like a David Boreanaz's booty call. It's kinetic and it's bloody, and there are moments where it does come together in battles that would have Blade dipping his sunglasses in disbelief. Unfortunately, such moments are irregular at best, and I think it's probably due to Redfall's enemies lacking the wits to put up a stimulating fight. Human enemies seem largely disinterested with taking cover in a firefight, and I've had snipers rushing at me like medieval knights. The vampires, however, are easily the worst offenders, charging and slashing at us like mindless animals. Worse, they just seem woefully underutilized as scary threats. A lot of the time, they just float around in the open, apparently sleeping peacefully. They just hover, waiting for us to walk directly up to them and attack them. Sometimes, blissfully unaware you've just turned the vampire that was beside them to dust. It'd be easier to look past the plain combat had the rest of Redfall been able to get its fangs into me, but it still hasn't, and I'm skeptical it will. The story itself seems to be unfolding in lightly animated paintings or static in-engine dioramas. They all look like placeholders for cutscenes that aren't coming.
Nobody ever believes things can get this bad. Until it happens.
And I have to say, fighting my way to a film projector to run what's essentially a slideshow certainly gives Redfall a cheapness that's hard to shake. It also doesn't appear that Redfall is saving progression for any player but the host in co-op games, even if all players are at identical points in the game. I began Redfall from scratch with 2 friends, all 3 of us fresh from the first mission, but while they kept their gear and XP, they'll now need to play those missions again.
Should have known those things wouldn't let us get away.
A lot has been made of Redfall only running at 30 frames per second at launch on Xbox Series consoles, but while it's certainly noticeable when moving rapidly, it'd be disingenuous of me to pretend it's a deal breaker. As a console gamer who grew up playing on 50Hz TVs at 25 frames per second, I'm not going to throw my toys out of the pram over it. What's far more pressing an issue than Redfall's Xbox frame rate is its raft of other performance issues, from textures that take an absolute age to pop in, disappearing characters and animations, and other mission-breaking bugs. During one side mission, I died trying to kill a vampire, but when I came back to finish the job, he was just a non-interactive blue ghost.
I know you're watching.
When I came back again, his shield was there, but the vampire wasn't in it. During a co-op session, I found myself fruitlessly attacking an enemy who was standing right in front of me, but my friend saw as a dead body. At one stage, while playing solo, my crouch and start buttons broke. They just made clunking noises. My inability to crouch persisted after death, but returned when I fast traveled to a safe house. Right now, Redfall is not the game I'd expected, certainly not following the excellent death loop. But you can check back with us later this week for our final assessment.
Now Redfall is one big shit show.
For more recent co-op shooter verdicts, check out our reviews of Crime Boss Rockay City and Dead Island 2. For everything else, stick with IGN.
You can't walk away from me. No one can.